Well, Melbourne is definitely one of them, for sure. Berlin is also right up there. Of course, it's way different vibes. But I would say Melbourne, Berlin, and Sao Paulo, because it's my hometown. That is a tough question, but I think performing. I mean, the studio time is amazing, but it's also so good to take that work out of the studio and go test it and see the crowd's reaction. That's always super fulfilling, so yeah. I listen to artists that I like. Usually not so much electronic music. Sometimes yes, but usually not in the genre that I produce. Like I like listening to older stuff. I'm a big rock head as well. I used to have a rock band before I started getting into electronic music. Metal as well. So yeah, I'm really eclectic in that sense, but just listening to music and just hanging out with great people, you know, just having good moments in life is always very inspiring. And of course touring, you know, this inspires me a lot, you know, having a good gig, being halfway across the world and you know, having a crowd like this is, you know, something that really gets me going, so. What music do I listen at home? That's a tough question because I listen to so much different stuff. Again, I'm a big metalhead, rock and roll for sure, some jazz sometimes, electro, some older electro stuff I really like. I mean, it really depends on my mood, but I'm really eclectic. If people check out my personal playlist on Spotify, they will probably have a laugh because there's everything in there, even Ace of Base and stuff like that. Some really old, like old electronic stuff. But yeah, I'm pretty much like everything. What am I looking forward to this year? Being back on the road, just this, you know, just being here, connecting with people again, seeing fans, playing new music. Getting the crowd's feedback, meeting new people, seeing my friends, the promoters, everything around it really. I've just missed being on the road so much. The last couple of years, of course, have been a struggle for everyone. And just having that feeling of things finally getting back on track is just, yeah, so good. I first discovered electronic music, I think it was the first memory that I have of it. I think it was when I was 13 or 14. There was a club that used to do Sunday nights. I don't know how you call it. There's a name for it. It's kind of like clubs for kids. And then, you know, it goes from, I don't know, noon to 5 or something like that. And there was a friend of mine who told me, hey, let's go to this place. It's really cool. And it was like Gigi D'Agostino or stuff like that, you know. And but it just blew me away. I remember just getting out of the club that day and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then after that, I literally became a promoter for that club and I started, you know, inviting more people and I was there every Sunday until I was old enough, or I wasn't actually old enough, but then I started going to the real clubs. But yeah, that's how it started. Just, you know, being in random clubs in Sao Paulo back then. And yeah, just listening to really cheesy electronic music, basically. Wow, there's so many. It would be hard to name just one, to be honest. But fuck yeah, it would be almost unfair to name just a few because there are just so many. I mean, even my friends, you know, my closest friends who are all producers as well, they inspire me so much. You know, I have people that I've been lucky enough to have heroes that I have later met and who were really nice and turned out to be amazing people. Anthony Rother is one of them. I love his music and I loved what he did, his electro sounds. And yeah, it was just, man, there's so many. Enrico as well, who, you know, became a good friend. Of course, Weber, Victor, Anna, all the Brazilian crew, they're all my friends and I love them to death and they inspire me to this day. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard. So I'm sorry if I haven't mentioned some. I mean, it's hard because there's just so many. But yeah, those are my main ones for sure. I do have some music coming out later this year. It's a really special EP I did with a good friend of mine called Stevie. His artist name is Trenchcoat. He's a really cool guy from Manchester in the UK, and he was over in Berlin at my studio for a couple of weeks. And we experimented a lot. It was a really cool, interesting time for us. And yeah, we got 2 really good tracks out of it. One of them I played today, works amazingly, which is great. I gotta tell him that the mixdown is spot on and we're good to go. But I'm not sure when. I think between August or September, and it's coming out on Terminal M, which is our kind of home label for us both. And I'm really excited about that one. You know, a lot of my friends have been playing those tracks and I'm getting really good feedback, so I'm excited. The main challenge as a DJ, I think that as a producer and a DJ, I mean, I consider myself more as a producer as a DJ. Of course, I perform as a DJ, but you know, I think that my real job is in the studio, creating music. And I think that nowadays this has been a common subject. I think that the mental game, I think, is the hardest thing, to be honest. I think with, you know, the birth of social media, you know, us humans, we have a tendency to compare ourselves already. And with social media, everything just got turned up to 11, basically. You know, you're just following all these artists that you love and admire, and it's really easy to get caught up in being a perfectionist and then really not liking your sound. And I'm a big perfectionist. I tend to be a bit of a dick with myself in that sense. Sorry for the language. But you know, if I'm in the studio, I'll be like, oh, I've done this, I've done that, I heard someone do something similar. So I think that the mental game is honestly nowadays the hardest part. It's just learning to let go, to enjoy the whole process, you know, not being so goal-driven or exteriorizing your happiness in a sense that, oh, once I play that venue or once I release on that label, I'm going to be happy, because the truth is that's a really slippery slope, and it doesn't get you anywhere. You know, you end up really frustrated. And I not only speak for myself, but honestly for, I think, 90% of the people I know. So of course, you know, getting up the ladder is quite tricky, but if you have your mind and you know, your thoughts in the right place, it will happen. It's just a matter of time, and having discipline to really stay on it, because it is something that takes time. It took me 6 or 7 years to start releasing music, and 6 years to start releasing music, and I guess 2 or 3 years after that to actually start playing gigs. And I know people that have given up after a couple of years. You know, nowadays you can do it much faster than back then. You know, there was no YouTube, nothing. We used to read forums for tips. You know, there wasn't any kind of schooling or anything like that. We just learned by trying, so it takes more time. But yeah, it's a bit tricky, but if you have the right intentions, I think it's absolutely doable. That is a good question as well. I mean, between giving the crowd what they want and giving them what I feel I need to give them, it is a bit of a tricky thing. But in the end of the day, I believe that, I mean, let me start off like this. If I went to see Metallica play, there's a couple of tracks that I would really love to see them play. So it's something that I always have in the back of my mind, that I feel like I need to play some music that I've already played, like worked on it in the studio for I don't know how long. I've played it a million times, etc. So I would love to play new music. Today, for example, is a good example, because I haven't been in Melbourne for almost 3 years. In the meantime, I've released a bunch of music, and I know people want to listen to those tracks, but at the same time, I got to test my new material, and I got to kind of, you know, work on that as well and present that to them. So there isn't really a rule, but I always keep it in the back of my mind that, you know, I try to kind of give and take a little, you know, so I try to give them a little bit of the stuff that I know that they used to, but also bring in new things, you know, because otherwise we're just kind of stuck. And I think it's, as producers and DJs, it's our job to bring new things to the crowd. And I mean, I hate that word, but educate them into kind of new kind of sounds as well. And, you know, what's to come in 6 months and a year, so. Particular activities here in Australia, nothing particular, just being here really does me really good. I just love the people here. I have such a great time. The energy of the crowd itself is so good. Everyone is so friendly. The food is amazing. Last time I was here, we went for rally school, which was really cool. The time before that, we went on a drive to the 12 Apostles, which was fucking beautiful. So I just try to take, which is something I'm doing next week, I try to take a couple of days off and just get to know some new area of the country where I haven't been. I don't really have any rituals before playing. If I did, I mean, the only thing that I could consider being a ritual would be taking a power nap, which I know a lot of people will think that, yes, I mean, sometimes it is to rest, but to me it's mostly just to bring my mind to a calmer state, because I do get really nervous. Something that very few people know. Well, since we're here, why not share it? I do actually throw up sometimes out of nervousness. Still to this day, this is something that has been happening most of my life. And depending on how big the gig is, or if it's a new city, if I'm really uncertain about what's going to happen, it sometimes can come to that point. It hasn't happened in a while, thank God, because it's really unpleasant. But I mean, honestly, rituals is really just, I try to, even if I have just half an hour, I lay down And it's kind of like a meditation for me, just to calm myself down and get my mind in the right place. My summer this year is looking really cool. I mean, June is quite amazing. I've played a couple of gigs already. I had my birthday gig in Berlin, which was really cool. Now I'm here, which is going to be amazing. It's already amazing. I mean, this was the first gig and I'm blown away. Later this month, I'm going to Dubai for the first time as well. Going back to Beirut, which is one of my favorite cities in the world as well. And you know, they've gone through a lot in the last year with the big explosion that they had. So it's going to be so good to see my friends there again and be back there. In July, I'm playing the Love Parade in Berlin, which is, you know, historic basically. You know, I grew up watching that. I'm playing the Zurich Street Parade as well a month after. So a bunch of really interesting gigs for sure. It's gonna be a good summer for sure. The last text, let me check. Let me see. Maybe I haven't checked it yet. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, there's nothing here, just my dog. Let me think. The last text message I received. I don't know. Let me think. I think the last text message that I received was last night from my good friend Victor Ruiz. We were talking about everything and just talking shit like we do as good friends. And I just reminded him that his profile picture was a bit crooked and my OCD kind of was triggered by it. And I was like, hey, just in case you haven't seen, your picture's a bit off. So, and he was like, yeah, thank you for letting me know. So you're welcome, buddy. Yes, I do. It was actually an electronic music. No, I would be lying. That CD was actually gifted to me. Well, one of the first CDs was Infected Mushroom Converting Vegetarians. That was a gift from one of my best friends and one of the guys who brought me into like the harder electronic music, like psytrance, which is something that, you know, very few people know. That's where I started. That's also where I met Victor at a rave. We were both psytrance DJs. But the first CD I bought was from a Brazilian band called Raimundus, which was curse words, riddled kind of rock bands. And I was thinking 13, 14. I remember being in the car with my parents when I bought that because of course I was a kid. So they drove me to the shopping mall and I bought that, and then they wanted to listen to what I had bought and they almost threw the CD out of the window. And they're like, in the first 15 seconds, they were like, you're not listening to this. But I actually did convince them to let me keep the CD. So I was pretty happy. Favorite dance floor in the world? Well, there's always so many tricky questions. It's so hard to put something on the number one. I mean, right now, this is my favorite dance floor in the world. You know, I just literally finished. I'm still sweating. There's so many. Sisyphus. There's a dance floor in the club called Sisyphus in Berlin called Hammerhalle, which is one of my favorite dance floors in the world. I love the way they do things where they don't really announce DJs. So you basically just get there and you know, sometimes they will put it up on their website a couple of hours before, but most people are just there. And it doesn't really matter who's playing. You know, it's all about the music. And there wasn't a single time that I played there, and all the times that I did where I didn't have a lot of fun. And there was always also some people there just by chance that knew me, so it's always a good time. I think that could be my favorite one. But it wouldn't really do justice to all the other ones. So it's hard. Well, amazing festival. Good job, guys, to the organization. Thank you for having me, of course. You know, first of all, sound system was just wow. The crowd just insane. I wish I had my monitors turned down a little bit less so I could hear the crowd, but I was just having such a good time up there that I just cranked it all the way up. But I could see people jumping and screaming, so it was good. And yeah, it's just congratulations. It was such a good festival, and I'm very grateful to be part of it. To everyone watching this, all my fans here in Australia or anywhere else, thank you guys so much for the support over the years. Thank you for sticking with us artists during the pandemic. I hope that, you know, our music could help you in some way get through these hard times the same way music that I loved helped me through this. I deeply appreciate the support, and I'm gonna be forever thankful. I think that the fans don't really realize how important they are to us. You guys are the reason why we keep doing this, you know, and I can tell you guys, as with any other person, we have our difficult times. There's times where we are, you know, thinking about, you know, giving up, or why is the point of doing all of this? And then I get a message from someone who told me that, you know, this or that track has helped him through a difficult time, and it just makes everything worth it. So I love you guys, and I really appreciate everything over the years and the support, so thanks.